Matt Matera, Pewter Report. You can't see him. Yes, you can here on the program. The last real champion of our show. What's going on, pal? How are you?
I'm doing great, Jay. Thanks for having me on. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. What a great week in college football. And I feel like it's the ultimate kind of jump off point for the NFL week one. How'd you like the college slate?
Loved it. I mean, anytime you get to watch a full slate of any type of football, it's fantastic. And the first week of college football absolutely delivered. I mean, I know it wasn't crazy high scoring, but to start off with Texas and Ohio State and, to see that matchup, and it really got close at the end too. A lot of top ranked matchups as well, even to end the night with LSU Clemson. And of course, Florida State, that was awesome too. So loved watching it, loved the storylines week to week, getting to the games as well. So nothing's better than when football is back.
Yeah, you got that right, pal. David Velasquez is asking, so we'll start right there. Status on Benjamin Morrison. I know he wasn't out there yesterday. Cause for concern about his status for week one against the Falcons?
Yeah, I definitely think there's cause for concern. And we asked Todd Bowles about it on Monday. It was a bonus day type of practice, but we did get to speak to the coach. And, he said they're not ruling him out yet. We'll see. That's usually his go-to line with player injuries. We'll see. I don't know yet. Stuff like that. But we're not just talking about a guy trying to come back from an injury. We're talking about a player that's missed a lot of training camp, did not play in one preseason game. And he's been great when he's been available, like even going back to OTAs and a little bit of training camp that he was. But he's also never played an NFL game. So to me, it would be a little absurd to all of a sudden he's going to start practicing on Wednesday, and then you're going to throw him into a game with meaningful snaps when you have Zion, McCollum, and Jamel Dean, who've been playing for a very long time at this point, especially with Dean. I think it's a concern that he's not going to start the season, though I do think the Bucs are equipped to overcome it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So break down the rest of the secondary for us then. How do you think it's going to look when they line up for that first snap on defense against the Falcons?
Yeah, so you're going to have Zion McCollum and Jamel Dean as your outside corners. Antoine Winfield Jr. returning, which is big time. He missed a handful of games last year, I think 9 to be exact. Will be free safety. Strong safety will be Tyke Smith, who was the nickel corner last year. And taking that nickel corner spot is the rookie Jacob Parrish, third-round pick out of Kansas State. Scott always likes when I mention that. Mm-hmm. He's had a great training camp so far, just active overall in terms of getting his hands on the football, creating takeaways, pass breakups, and all that stuff. So I'm excited how he's going to mesh into the secondary there. Backing up, you got Kindle Vildor on the outside. And let's remember, Bryce Hall is on the practice squad, but he could easily be a game day elevation considering the injury with Benjamin Morrison. The issue becomes what happens with the depth at safety, because Christian Izien right now was not practicing either. He's one of those guys that might not be available for week one, but Christian Izien is a nice little chess piece for the Bucs because he can play backup safety. He can play in the slot for Parrish if they want to move Parrish to the outside if something happened to some of these other injuries. But if he's not available, you have Kayvon Merriweather, Rashad Wisdom, who was on the practice squad last year. He's played in the slot a little bit too, but it gets dicey with the depth at safety after the two starters.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I saw some stuff about Jacob Parrish possibly playing on the outside. How could that shake down if Parrish gets love on the outside, who would then slot into the nickel? Would it just be one of those things where him and Zion switch? Like, how would that go?
Zion could switch in, and it depends on the matchup and the opponent. I think a good example is they are playing Atlanta this week, and Zion McCollum has been on record before. I don't like going against Darnell Mooney, just because he said he's one of the toughest guys to defend, and it's just different size-wise and stuff like that. So they could move McCollum into the slot depending on who they're going against or the receiver that's going to be lining up there a lot. They could put Tyke Smith back into the slot, and you put Merriweather back in the safety position, which he played last year. There's a lot of different moving parts, and it's not exactly, okay, plan A, plan B, plan C. It's literally going to be based on every single matchup. What Todd Bowles likes for the secondary against Atlanta could look 10 times different when they go up against Houston in week 2 or host the Jets in week 3 and then the Eagles in week 4.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think the one thing that we can agree on is they got to get to the passer, and they got to get to the passer with 4 if they can. What gives you, other than just the obvious of the injuries that the Atlanta has on the offensive line, other than that, what gives you hope and optimism that this Buccaneers pass rush is going to be better, not just in week 1, but beyond?
Well, the beauty of having Hassan Reddick is that you have a proven double-digit sacker, which the Bucs haven't had that since, Shaq Barrett in his prime. And I understand everything that went wrong with Hassan Reddick and the New York Football Jets last season. But I think he's turned a corner, no pun intended, to playing on the edge. I think he's truly bought into everything that the Bucs are trying to do defensively this season. So let's also remember, Kalijah Kancey will be playing the first game of the regular season for the first time in his career. The past 2 years, he's gotten injured in training camp in the preseason. So you have Vita Vea and Kalijah Kancey in the middle. That opens stuff up for Yaya Diaby. And also takes a lot of attention off of it opens things up for Hassan Reddick. It takes a lot of attention off of Yaya Diaby when he was the primary guy last season. So I think Yaya will kind of benefit from cleaning up on some sacks that maybe weren't there last year because Joe Tryon-Shoyinka wasn't getting to the quarterback. But if Hassan Reddick is pushing from the outside, quarterback's going to come the way of Yaya, and he could get it done. And then if anything else, too, it's better for the Bucs to get it done with the 4-man pass rush. That'll certainly help in the postseason when the Bucs couldn't get off the field last year and teams are better against the blitz. But Todd Bowles is a creator to the oblivion when it comes to different blitzes and stuff like that. They were still top 10 in sacks despite not being able to get to the quarterback with the front 4. So if all else fails, you have the crazy, chaotic blitzes that Todd Bowles comes up with going up against a inexperienced quarterback with Michael Penix Jr. He's going to see looks he's never seen before. And I know he got a little bit of time last year, but I thought it was ridiculous by the Falcons to not play him at all in the preseason. Yeah, I think you're going to take advantage of an inexperienced quarterback on top of the tackle situation.
Yeah, I wonder the hierarchy because, again, I'm looking back at last year and I'm going, you know how crazy it is that the Buccaneers were able to win the division after losing 2 games to the Atlanta Falcons? It's kind of wild mathematically. That just doesn't happen because it's not like it was this weird aberration where Atlanta was 4-13 and 2 of the wins came against the Bucs. They were still a team that were in the hunt for a good chunk of the season, but the Buccaneers were able to kind of right the ship at the end of the year and win that division. Do you think the gap between those 2 teams is closer than it was last year or farther apart?
Honestly, I think it's a little bit farther apart. I was saying this yesterday on a different show that I think there's a better chance that Carolina surpasses Atlanta for the second spot in the NFC South than Atlanta does catching the Bucs for first place. And I think that just has to do with the talent that Tampa Bay has. To me, Atlanta feels a little bit like a house of cards. Everyone's talking about this exceptional offense, but if it doesn't work with Michael Penix, I mean, we saw what happened with bad quarterback play last year with this team. Their receivers are not as good as what Tampa Bay has, even with the injuries to Chris Godwin and Jalen McMillan. After Drake London, I'm not entirely impressed by the Falcons' passing game and their wide receivers. I think Kyle Pitts, the tight end, at this point is extremely overrated. They're exceptional running the football with Bijan Robinson, but okay. I mean, other teams outside of the Eagles have had great running backs, but haven't gone far with them. I think Derrick Henry with the Titans for many years was a great example. Now he's with the Ravens, and they still couldn't even get to the Super Bowl with him. And then Carolina, on the other hand, they've bought into the positivity bully that is Dave Canales. And I think they play like an inspired team. They hung tough with the Chiefs last year. Yeah, they beat the Falcons in that last game of the season that punched the ticket for Tampa Bay into the postseason. Now, the Bucs beat the Saints anyway, so they would have gone in. But Carolina, to me, is just kind of lacking talent right now. But they have the belief that I don't think Atlanta has. So I think Carolina might be more of a thorn in the side of the Bucs than maybe Atlanta is.
Yeah, and I don't trust Raheem Morris. I know that's kind of, taboo to say here in Tampa because, people like the guy, and I know how close he is with Rondé, and they remember from his time here, and they thought he was a little bit too much of a player's coach, and I'm just I don't have all of those strings that are attached. I'm just watching for what I saw. I didn't like what I saw last year. This is the same thing you kind of saw in Tampa Bay, and undisciplined. They just don't seem to be well coached. And I don't know, does that get better? Like, what happens if it doesn't get better and they still make mistakes? Like, then what, right? Then what's the excuse? Right. I'm not complaining about it. Just is what it is. Your level of concern now again for the offensive line. Now that knowing that Tristan's not there, he shouldn't be out too long, a couple games at the most. But Charlie Heck and the rest of that O-line, where's your concern? Because we know what Atlanta was able to do in the offseason, bringing in some pass rushers.
Yeah. I'm not overly concerned because I think we're going to see Tristan Wirfs sooner rather than later. And right. He won't be playing against Atlanta, but I think we're going to see him by the time the Bucs get to their home opener in week 3. Okay. I really do. So when you factor that in, I think if you look at the first 4 games of the season with Atlanta, Houston, the Jets, and then the Eagles, I think even with Tristan Wirfs, there are a group of people that would say, okay, they can go 2-2. I think the ceiling, I mean, sure, they could go 4-0, but I think realistically, they could go 3-1, but I could also see 2-2. So to me, if Tristan Wirfs gets back for that Jets game in week 3, then you're looking at just trying to go 1-1. You still have the rest of the offensive line there. They've had all of the summer to figure out what they have with Charlie Heck. So are they going to put Charlie Heck on an island going against Jalen Walker and some of these other new pass rushers that the Falcons have? No, they're going to give him Cade Otton. If you saw in the preseason, anytime Charlie Heck was in, Cade Otton was right next to him. Sometimes Payne Durham was right next to him too. So they'll beef up that side of the line. I think they'll rely on the running game, put Charlie Heck in more run game situations or run it to the other side of the offensive line. I think Josh Grizzard will really protect Charlie Heck, where you won't see kind of what happened last year when Luke Gedeke got hurt, Justin School came in, and Aiden Hutchinson had 3 sacks in the first half and all that stuff. I don't think you'll see that this year. And then you're kind of just biding your time until Tristan Wirfs returns. So because everyone's back, because it's a well-oiled machine, a pretty gelled unit besides Charlie Heck, I'm not overly concerned about it.
Yeah, I like that. And you got Keith, so he can just pretty much do whatever. Just throw that battering ram anywhere around Charlie Heck's area. Running back position, Bucky Irving. I saw Sean Tucker return to practice too. What's your take on Bucky Irving? Any concerns about him being able to kind of carry the load this year for the team, and what kind of impact do you think Rashad and Sean Tucker could have?
I'm a little concerned with Bucky in terms of just being able to play 17 games, but that's one of those things you won't really know until he gets injured. He's just a tiny guy playing a position that gets hit every single time he touches the football. It's not really Bucky's fault. But I have a lot of confidence in the entire Bucs running back.
Right.
Sean Tucker, as we know, NFC Offensive Player of the Week against the Saints. I think some of these guys would be, Rachaad White is RB2, but Rachaad White would be a starter on half the other teams in the league.
No doubt.
I think Sean Tucker would be RB2 on half the other teams in the league. And I really like Josh Williams out of LSU as well. There's a reason they kept him on the 50-man roster. He's not on the practice squad. They kept 4 running backs. So I'd love for Bucky to play the entire season. I think it's important we have to factor in that, he didn't really become the starter until a couple of games into last season. So there wasn't as much wear and tear on him. But he's always making guys miss. I think if he plays 17 games, he'll far exceed 1,000 yards. He had 1,100 yards last year. I think he'll far exceed it. Do I expect him to play 17 games? No. I wouldn't be surprised if he missed a game or 2. But I think they're well equipped with Rashad, Sean Tucker, and even Josh Williams if he has to play to really pick up the slack if Bucky isn't available.
Yeah, I rode Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, Bucky Irving, and Mike Evans to my fantasy football championship last year. So I want to thank those guys for being able to do that. The wide receiver position. Now we know it, Chris Godwin and Jalen McMillan going to be out for a little while. Looking at Mike Evans, that Emeka Egbuka pick just looks better and better by the day, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I think this is a great opportunity for Emeka Egbuka to quickly establish himself in the conversation for Offensive Rookie of the Year, especially because when you look at it, it typically goes to the quarterback that plays best as a rookie, but you really only have Cam Ward. We'll see how long it takes for the Giants to go to Jackson Dart.
You saw he got named QB2 today.
He did. Yes, I did see that. So it's coming sooner rather than later. But, even if Jackson Dart doesn't start playing until week 7, that still gives Emeka Egbuka a lot of time. Sure, there's a lot of other great candidates. Ashton Genty,
Oh yeah.
Luther Burden from the Bears, Ted McMillan on the Panthers. Like there are other, candidates and examples. But to me, one thing that will be like a great decider and a great factor is if he's putting up production quickly and early, people are going to be on his radar right away. The Bucs are going to be a winning team and make the postseason and hopefully win the division. I think typically those awards go to players on winning teams and they do losing teams. And you got that Monday night game against the Houston Texans in week 2. So if he pops off in that game, you're already having a guy that's wide receiver 2, carbon copy of Chris Godwin, and putting up great production. I know it's crazy. He's never played a game, but I'm very high on Emeka Egbuka. I love that the Bucs have some gadget players with Tez Johnson and Cameron Johnson as well. I think Sterling Shepard will play a serviceable role. I don't love it for 17 games, but for the first month, I think Sterling Shepard as your wide receiver 3 is not too bad of a spot for him, especially given his chemistry with Baker Mayfield. And of course, you have Mike Evans, who's the greatest offensive player in Bucs history. And he's been in this situation before. Like I've been asked about, well, aren't teams just going to, turn their attention to Mike? And I'm like, yeah, but they did that last year too, and he still got over 1,000 yards despite missing 3 games. So I think more of this downfield attack that the Bucs will have in the passing game that they didn't have as much last year, I think it benefits Mike even more. So the injuries suck. It certainly, I think, could lead to some setbacks or growing pains, if you will, early on in the season. But ultimately, I think this offense will still be averaging 30 points per game when it's all said and done at the end of the season.
I want to ask you about the downfield passing game because that's one thing that I don't 100% like know how much we're going to see that, like especially early on in the season. You're down your left tackle. You're going to make sure that you help protect him. You did a great job running. You have a play caller where it's his first time doing it in the National Football League. So should we temper our expectations on seeing those down, shots down the field at least early on in the season? Because again, you don't have Godwin, you don't have McMillan. So I know that was a topic of, a discussion early on in the year of like, hey, we want to push the ball down the field. We want to push the ball down the field. Well, if Baker's, constantly chucking the ball 40 yards down the field and he has to sit and he has to let those routes develop, you don't want to do that with a guy that's not your normal left tackle. So how do you think they're going to be able to find that balance? Is that something that maybe they'll grow into as the year goes on? Or do you think right out of the gates, they'll be able to try to, go for those deep shots?
They're going to have some of their moments to take those deep shots, but I think it'll certainly take a month before they really get into that groove of taking more of those shots. And of course, whenever Tristan Wirfs comes back, that plays a huge factor into all of it. But I truly think early on, you're going to see a ton of screens from this team in many different ways. It's not just going to be to the running back. It's not just going to be like, hey, all the way to the sideline, bam, screen. Like they're going to be very creative with it, and they're going to run the football a lot. And that's why it was interesting with Baker's overall passing yards total. Before I even looked at it, I thought it was going to be around, 4,000, like what he threw last year. And I was like, I don't know if I'd take 4,000, but it's at 3,800, which to me gives you more of a reason to go for it than if it was, 4,000. So I think it'll take a good month until you see some more of those down shots. And they'll take it game by game. And, if someone's wide open, you obviously got to go for it. But Mike's a downfield guy. The Bucs were doing it in training camp. They did in the preseason too. Now, obviously not all the starters were playing and that stuff, but you also can't be too conservative at the same time. So I say after that Eagles game is when the Bucs are really going to let it rip. It just might take a little bit of time and a little bit of like self-scouting and understanding what they are as a team with the current product that they have.
Where do you think Jameis goes? Do you think he stays with the Giants?
Man, I hope Jameis gets an opportunity to play somewhere. And I don't want injuries on anyone, but the league is better when Jameis is in it than when he's going and playing. So I hope he gets an opportunity to play on a team that thinks they have a chance to fight for a playoff spot and they want like an actual proven quarterback. I think there's a spot for Jameis somewhere. I don't know necessarily where off the top of my head. Honestly, I know Tyrod Taylor's injured for a little bit, but Jameis to the Jets.
Yeah.
If Tyrod's out, then, Justin Fields obviously is a mobile quarterback that, could get banged up with the amount that he runs. I think Jameis to the Jets is not the worst idea. Plus, he doesn't have to move that far, which is pretty good. I could see him back in New Orleans. I think that would make a ton of sense for New Orleans.
That's the one spot I was looking at too. Maybe the Rams backing up Matthew Stafford. I know they have
hey, revived Baker's career.
Right? I mean, think about it. Like, I would try to go to a team like that. I mean, does he go to it? What if he went to it like San Francisco or something? Like, just get into a good place with some good play callers, and he's just such a good positive energy, right? So I mean, could do a lot worse.
He's unbelievable to watch.
Big Jameis guy. All right, before I let you go, your thoughts on Clash in Paris? Your guy John Cena. He obviously he has 8 dates left. The 8th, or this one coming up on Friday in Chicago. CM Punk is going to be there. I wonder if there's going to be some like little cross stitching there. Will we see Brock Lesnar, because we haven't seen him since he came out and F5'd them. So what do you think about John Cena there in the match with Logan Paul, and what we're going to see over the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, I only caught the tail end of Clash in Paris. So I saw some of Cena, and then I saw all of the Fatal 4-Way. Seemed like everyone loved the Cena match. The crowd was insane, which was awesome to see. I'm glad John Cena won. There's not really a reason for him to lose until like maybe his last match. So looks like he played the hits. I legitimately thought John Cena was like hurt, because the way he pinned Logan Paul, it wasn't like your typical like going over the guy, lifting the leg and everything. He like he put maybe a finger on Logan Paul to pin him. But it seemed like everyone loved it. Glad to see all the praise that he's getting. He has to fight Brock Lesnar at WrestlePalooza, because you know they're going to go big for the first ESPN one. So I don't know. I'm excited for like the surprises of who John Cena is going to fight down the stretch. I think they're kind of doing like the open challenge type of thing besides Brock Lesnar kind of looming there. So every time he's out there, it's like, okay, who's going to step up to John Cena? I like that kind of ending everything out. I thought the Fatal 4-Way was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
The swerve with Becky Lynch coming out, wasn't thinking of it, but it makes total sense given that Seth and Becky are married. I didn't watch Raw, but I guess they're kind of putting her into the group.
Bro, she smacked
I saw her smack CM Punk.
Wow.
I don't really care about CM Punk and AJ Lee, but if people want AJ Lee back, that's awesome. Some of the storylines, man, are just getting too much of the same. It's like, all right, this guy's going to run out, screw him over. We're going to write this person off of TV, and let's do the same thing over and over and over again. So I think they need a little bit of a shakeup of the storylines and stuff like that. But bringing in AJ Lee, I think, will certainly be a new wrinkle to that storyline. And again, it's all about John Cena and the last couple of dates he has. So.
Yeah, it certainly is. And Logan Paul did the zigzag, the Dolph Ziggler move, and John Cena did the Styles Clash. He did the Cesaro move too. So these guys that he isn't going to be able to wrestle, don't be surprised if he does like a big E move, right? Like the big ending or something like that. He's going to be able to show some love to guys that he's, not able to wrestle. So
will he do the people's elbow?
Yeah. And The Rock's, did you see The Rock?
I saw he lost a ton of muscle, whatever,
Bro,
but also he's gonna win an Oscar as well. So
he looks sick. He looks like there's something, but you never know, man. Like method actors, and you just don't know in Hollywood. Like he could be playing a part. We think these guys look terrible, and they come out and they make a freaking $500 million movie. You never know. He is the one and only Matt Matera. You can see him all the time. Pewter Report, real quick. I wanted to 4:00 today. NFC South preview with our guy Greg Allman. You got the Bucs and Falcons preview tomorrow at 4. Thursday Trench Talk at 4:00. Pewter pregame show, Pewter game day show, Bucs Falcons post game podcast. They've got it all, and you also brought somebody new on board, haven't you?
Gonna join me for the Pewter game day show, Daniel Morales. Excited to have him on. He's been a fan of Pewter Report for a while, and he's put out some cool Bucs content as well. So he's going to be joining the team, and we'll see what he's got. But excited to have him on.
That's right. Big shoes to fill, buddy. I've been there before. I've been on that show before. So congratulations to Daniel Morales. Again, follow our guys, Pewter Report, at Pewter Report, pewterreport.com. Matty Matera, the one and only. You can see him, the last real champion in Tampa Bay sports media. There he is. Matt, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much. Enjoy the games this weekend. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. You're the best. Talk to you later.
Pal. The man.